All right. Hopefully, so I'm hitting the road again. I can't wait to get on the road again. I don't care if I don't ever see my friends. I can't wait to get on the road again. Yo, what's up? Yeah, Diddy lawyer, man. She broke it all down. Break it all down. She had an exclusive interview with CNN. And oh, I loved every minute of it. I was loving every minute of it. Loving every minute of it. Loving every minute of it. See, what reigned supreme and stayed like a whisper in everyone's ears that other people just didn't see. They didn't understand. They didn't know. Is how this was gonna process. How was this gonna set other people back? Or would it set people back? See, here's the big picture. Sean Diddy Combs and his team clearly believed in his innocence from the jump. The key to the case of what she said was just tell the truth. Sean Combs didn't traffic anybody. RICO is ridiculous. And the thing that they knew is that the prosecution knew too, that this was garbage. But they still chose to prosecute the case. It's like they knew this was trash. And their choice was, well, this is some garbage, but let's prosecute it anyway. And it was ridiculous. And it led to all of this just to embarrass and lock up Sean Puffy Combs. It was a complete embarrassment. It was quite interesting that all they had to do was get everyone on the same page and said, when we were prosecuting this case, the prosecutors knew he hadn't RICO'd anybody. They knew he didn't traffic anybody, but they just proceeded to prosecute the case anyway. And they said, well, there's no way they could convict because the jury would see right through that there's just all lies. And the jury would see through it whatsoever. And that's why we knew all of these people who were running around here reporting on Diddy, right? They were out of their position. They were out of whack. In other words, they were out of their minds. So they looked into the option of having Donald Trump come in and trump his way through everything. Donald Trump was supposed to come by and have a conversation with Diddy's team when he was in New York as the president, right? So they flew out and had a correspondence. Damn. They in there getting a tree removed. So they met up with Donald Trump's people, people that represent Trump, to try to see about him getting acquitted. I mean, to get a pardon. Because Diddy wanted to speak to himself and say, don't go off of some stuff that you saw on the internet. Speak to me so you get to hear from it. So allegedly, they have an audio thing where they're going to hook it up where the president gets to speak to him. So he gets to have a one-on-one converse with the president. It never happened. It might happen, but as of right now, it never came back that the president didn't want to do it. He was saying that he might, until he did that interview saying that, oh, well, he said some bad things about me in the past, so I just don't think I'm going to do it. But that doesn't mean Trump's not going to do it. It's just that at this point, he doesn't see a point in doing it, is what he's saying. Now, what he really means is this. He will do it if the right situation presents itself. Oh, no. He will never be at that point where he wouldn't do it. Hello. So he would never be at a point that he wouldn't do it. Oh, Fifth ain't put a stop to it. No, see, the thing is, the midterms are coming up. As it gets closer to it, Trump could always pardon him. It don't have to be right here at this moment in time. So right now, he's dealing with more pressing issues until they can figure out something that they could do for Trump. And then Trump would do it in a heartbeat. Trump is a businessman. You have to bring something to the table to get him to do things. So that would be his motivation 100%, is that you got to have something in it for him. What is in it for Mr. Trump? Well, when you're faced with scenarios that usually don't make a lot of sense, Like this Mann Act. This case should have been eliminated a long time ago. No, because I'm not about championing black men being railroaded by a system. I'm not cool with that. A system that will be put in place to imprison other black men and other men of color to be weaponized against us. Why are we cheering for that? And trying to use our bias against Sean Puffy Combs to do so. Well, there's different properties involved. There's a lot of people's mannerisms, which hasn't been the same, hasn't been ideal for the rest of us. But if anybody were to get in contact with me and have a discussion about the actual case, I'd be like, where did you see a RICO in this case? There wasn't one. If legitimate lawyers who has nothing to do with this case is saying, where the hell was a RICO? Right? If they're telling you sex trafficking, like, where was that? How are you going to prove that you sex trafficked your girlfriend, your woman? You see what I'm saying? It just didn't make a lot of sense. And for the rest of the world, you know, going through these experiments and all of these different scopes, like on one scale, you got everybody saying, oh, this is the greatest thing that we've ever seen. This is what needs to happen. And then on the other scale, you got people going, oh, I don't know. This person didn't do X, Y, and Z, and this and that. Why? Why do you feel that's the case? Why is that the end all be all? That makes no sense. None whatsoever. I remember Sean Diddy Combs started speaking out, doing interviews, talking about black people not getting the money, they're not getting funded. Nobody black stood with him. Nobody of stature, of promise, or any nature stood beside him. Nobody stood up and said, hey, that guy's right. Sean Diddy Combs is right. These guys are wrong. Nobody stood with him. That was very noticeable. And the reason I noticed it was because none of them were saying anything about it. They just let him go off on his own like he was a crazy man when he was pointing out the actual realities in the situation. You have black entertainers, black actors like Alton Hodge. You have Mekhi Phifer, Omar Epps, all of these actors that we missed out on, all of these years of them being in prominent roles. And there was opportunities there. They just wouldn't fund the movies. And then you say, man, what happened to Spike Lee's? What happened to the Singletons? What happened to all the black directors that were in the 80s and early 90s? What happened? Where are they at now? Why they don't have anything? We still have no platform. You know why? Because we didn't try to acquire one. We wanted to work for somebody and they pay us for work rather than to acquire for ourselves and say, now, let's get into the distribution game. We've done the director thing. We've done the producer thing. Let's go to the distributing thing. We never wanted to get on that side of the glass. And everybody who tried to get on that side of the glass was dealt with. Why? Because they were always alone. They were always alone. Nobody else had the balls to stand up with him. With any of them. They were always alone. And here, I'm supposed to be happy that they using the Mann Act to lock up Sean Puffy Combs. And I'm supposed to be up here celebrating that because you don't like what he do in his bedroom, in the privacy of his own bedroom or his home. Because you don't like that. I'm supposed to champion an act that enslaved millions of us, a law that is unjust, and you know it's unjust, but you want it to be against Sean Combs because you don't like what he does in his bedroom. Think about how retarded that sounds. Hit the like button, y'all. You got guys talking about, you would support a man who would play with somebody's, their finished product. You let somebody climax on your girl and then you playing with the climax while you're sleeping with her. First of all that's disgusting. All of that is demonic. All of that is in their world. Nobody has ever championed his behavior from day one, part one. But his personal behavior and what choices he like to do, if he want to stick a magic marker up his ass, we might not like it and think that's weird, but that's his personal business. It's not a crime. Based on law, he's free to do that. He's free to stick a magic marker up his ass, 2 crayons up in his nose, walk around and do drawing art like this. Yeah, that's my picture. Yeah, take that. Take that. I think it's all of them disgusting. The 2 dudes that's on the interview that's going out there talking about he's suing Cassie, him and all the sex workers, they all nasty too. They all filthy. So it ain't just Diddy filthy, Cassie filthy, all of them filthy. But that's their personal behavior. But nobody looking at Cassie like she nasty. You see? Nobody bought the fact she was a victim, because she wasn't. Once you got to the evidence of the whole case, you're like, victim? Oh, please, get this out of here. And we going by people that seen the tapes. Remember, these tapes were leaked. One of the tapes was leaked years ago. Many years ago. Like, we're talking over 10 years ago. Tape got leaked. Then it was being pulled down. It was on adult film sites. People had saw it. And it was getting pulled down from everywhere, right? But if you saw the tape, you saw it. You saw the still shots. They were out there. Some of them are still out there. And at no time did it look like Cassie wasn't enjoying herself. She was scared. So everything that the prosecutors tried to lie to sell you. There you go, Outlaw. Get on that business. Outlaw holding it down. Now, when people start thinking about status quo, well, what's the status quo for this? What is this? What is that? Why do you come to these different realizations that don't measure up for everybody? You only target it for certain people. You only make it these rules for the people you don't like. Why you don't have the same rules for everybody? Why you can't look at it for what it is? Why does it have to be an agenda? This is the problem I have with people. I don't have a problem with somebody saying, okay, my moral values, you know, what's his name? Urban Legend? Evan? Yeah. Now me and him, we cool. He don't like Puffy at all. He's totally been biased. This entire trial, he has been 100% biased against Sean Diddy Combs. And he's definitely been doing it because of his personal Christian beliefs. That is what he's been basing it off of, and not the case. And I spoke to him about it. So it isn't like I'm targeting one person and I want them to tell it my way. That don't make no sense. I'm just saying, if you're going to do it with integrity or don't. Or we just know you're satire. You can continue to do it that way, but we know where to place you. You're not being real. You're not being authentic. What you're doing is being a hack. Because you're missing the point of why this is why people fight laws that are unjust. Because we've had to do this for years. Back then we had to know the law front and back just to walk down the street, because someone would pull us over and we'd have to recite the law saying you can't do this, 6th section and penal code. We had to know everything just to travel. Parents would teach their kids the law, what section it was in, and the penal code. You had to learn all that. This is why guys like Huey Newton came along and was so at such a young age, because you had to learn for survival at that time. Fred Hampton 18 years of age, that knowledgeable, because it was survival. And here it is. They use a white slave law to lock up a black man and get you and trick you into cheering for it. It's disgraceful. Except in the case, if you read the transcripts of the case, there's no way, shape, or form you seen this man is guilty. There's no way. You can tell this witness is lying. This witness is lying. That witness is lying. They've contradicted themselves on the stand. Took an oath, didn't give a damn about the oath. Damn near perjured themselves 2-3 times. Mistrials should have been called. This judge refuses to give a mistrial. You have one person here completely lying. Timestamps prove the person is lying on the stand. The government put this person on the stand, vetted the story, then tried to triple down on it while they were on the stand, while the timestamp proves you can't say, well, it was this date or that date or this date. The timestamp is on the photo and says this is the date. So you can't move it. And Mr. Combs was not in California. He was in New York for days on the Bad Boy tour. Right then and there, that witness had lied. That was a mistrial. That was misjustice on them, because whether they knew or didn't know, that should have been thrown out. The whole case should have been thrown out. Clear mistrial. My lawyers that I know who tried RICO cases said, I don't know what's happening here, because that should have been a mistrial. They would have been sanctioned. They would have had to be, there would have been some serious sanctions behind something like that. And she would have been held for perjury. She perjured herself on the stand. She definitely did. And then the prosecution to triple down on it and say, no, he definitely did it. Who else could it have been? By them trying to bring arson into the case, by them trying to bring in all of these different factors into the case that didn't matter. They doomed themselves. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and talk about Diddy all day long. I'm not a Diddy channel. If there's some new news, I will bring it up. We covered the trial all throughout the month. We covered the trial. So I didn't want to hear nothing about anything else. I was ready to talk about other things because we had covered what all needed to be known. And all of y'all were here. We went over the facts of the case. And we told it to you straight. Every time something looked bad for Diddy, the defense would come up there and provide their facts, and it would totally eliminate what they believe. Now, it is typically okay if you don't know any of these people. Me, I've been in the room with Diddy a few times because of his friendship with Floyd Mayweather. That's it. We weren't buddies. We didn't hang out. It was more like, what's up? What's up, Diddy? All right. And that was it. The first time he saw me, ever, he freaked out. Because he didn't know who I was. I told that story before. So nothing surprises me at this scale, at this level. Well, when you're dealing with people who think success is how many views they get, rather than what the information they're actually saying. When Dawn Richards got on the stand, completely lied, and perjured herself, and put her in a situation where her suit is going to be thrown out. You put people who have civil lawsuits on a stand because you don't have a case. Sloppy work. It's real sloppy work. And you try to dress up your charges with nonsense and theatrics. Bringing in Kid Cudi as a star witness just to make it more sloppy. Mm. Well, Donald Trump is an emotional man. He's not very highly educated. You can tell by the way he speaks. He's a man who seeks attention. I've been around him more times than I've been around Sean Diddy Combs. 2007, at the Shane Mosley Collazo fight, me, him, and Don King were around each other. I remember I got a picture of the top of his head. That was funny. When I went up there, I sat in the bleachers. Then he came by, and I was like, look at the top of Trump's head. I took a picture of his head. That's funny. But he had told you he was hovering around, trying to Australian Husky, huh?
Siberian, yeah.
Siberian, okay. Diddy is not a friend. So why are you saying we're defending him because he's a friend? He's not a friend of ours. What favor am I getting from Diddy? What I'm gonna do? Get a signed Bad Boy record from him? Tell him I'm gonna autograph this album for him. It's my love album to Casino. Thanks for holding me down, Daddy. Yeah. Sincerely yours, Diddy. What is he doing for me? I'm about law. And I'm about if the law is right or if the person didn't or did do the crime. I don't believe he did the crime. The evidence proves that people came up there to lie and get publicity for themselves. Why was Gene Deal up there? To walk around and get attention for himself. It was smart. He wasn't going to testify. He didn't even know Cassie. I told y'all they was Big Gene going to testify. Up for what? Involve himself in something he don't even know what he's involved in? Makes no sense. They all ruined their credibility. $50 is a troll. That's different. He's not following the case. If you're on the outside looking in, you'll think Diddy guilty. That's like everybody. Oh, you know Diddy did that. They haven't looked at the case. They haven't followed nothing. And if he gets not guilty, oh man, you know Diddy got money, man. He probably paid that judge, paid them people off, man. That's what they say. You already know this. Y'all know how the game is played. That's the type of people, that's the response they want from people. Because people have things to do in their life. They ain't got time to follow a case. They just get some information off the news and they run with it. And in every news report, it was, things looked very bad for Sean Combs today. He looked very defeated as this statement, these damaging statements were made. And it was so horrific. Oh my gosh, the look that he had. Yeah, it looks like things are not looking good for Mr. Combs. And I'm like, what the hell were they watching? It looked real good for him. So they were lying to the people, but it was exposing themselves. They show you how they control narrative. It's not about the truth. It's all about the narrative. Did he have a great day in court? People get caught lying. They're not going to even talk about that. They're going to focus on one thing that they want to try to make it look as if he's guilty. Because that's what they want. They want him to be. So your perceptions of what you want and what actually is are different. I discuss what actually is. And if something isn't correct, or isn't working, then that becomes the narrative. So, there it is. Cut and dried. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out. Deuces.